The stars were dying. High Counselor Mordesh stood before the great viewing wall of the Galactic Council Station, watching as another red dot disappeared from the star map. 3 more colonies had gone dark in the past day. The Devourers were coming faster now. How many ships do we have left? Mordesh asked without turning around. His voice was old and tired. 47 fleets remain operational, replied Commander Veltar. But sir, our weapons barely scratch them. The energy shields do nothing. Our plasma cannons heat their hulls but cause no real damage. Mordesh closed his eyes. In his long life, he had seen wars between species, trade disputes, and political fights. But nothing like this. The Devourers were not like any enemy they had faced before. They were machines, cold and perfect, that ate planets and turned the matter into more ships. The Kepler Defense Fleet engaged them 6 hours ago, Veltar continued. All 20 ships were destroyed. The Devourers lost only 3 vessels. The old counselor's hands shook. The Galactic Council had ruled space for 1,000 years. 47 species lived in peace under their protection. But now, that protection meant nothing. Sir, came a new voice. Ambassador Talvethi entered the chamber, her blue skin pale with worry. The emergency session is ready. All remaining council members are waiting. Mordesh followed her to the great hall. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in floating chairs arranged in a circle. Some appeared as holograms, their worlds too far away or too dangerous to leave. Fear filled the room like a thick cloud. Friends, Mordesh began, we face the end of everything we have built. The Devourers have consumed 43 worlds. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons cannot harm them. We need a new solution. Representative Kolnash from the Vegan hegemony spoke first. Our scientists believe the Devourers evolved in empty space between galaxies. They have no experience with biological warfare, chaotic tactics, or unpredictable fighting styles. What are you suggesting? Asked another voice. Kolnash hesitated. There is one species we have avoided contact with. One group that might have what we need. The humans. The hall fell silent. Several representatives made sounds of disgust. Others looked shocked. The Deathworlders? Talvethi said. You cannot be serious. They are barely civilized. Their planet is so dangerous that normal life cannot exist there. Exactly, Kolnash replied. They evolved on a world of constant violence. Earthquakes, storms, predators, disease, radiation. They learned to fight everything, even each other. Their military technology is brutal and primitive, but it works. Mordesh remembered the reports from 200 years ago. When the Council first found Earth, they were horrified. The humans had weapons that used nuclear fire. They fought wars with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Their ships had no energy, shields just thick armor plating. They seemed more like wild animals than thinking beings. We quarantined their system for good reason, said Representative Holmec. They are too dangerous to contact. More dangerous than extinction? Kolnash shot back. The Devourers will reach the core worlds in 30 days. We have nothing left to lose. The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued that humans were too violent to trust. Others said their technology was too primitive to help. But as more reports came in of destroyed fleets and consumed worlds, the arguments grew weaker. Finally, Mordesh called for silence. We will vote. All in favor of contacting the humans? 23 hands rose. Then 24. The vote was close, but it passed. Talvethi, Mordesh said, prepare your fastest ship. You will carry our message to Earth. The ambassador's face showed her disgust, but she nodded. What message should I carry? Tell them the galaxy is dying. Tell them we need their help. And tell them... Mordesh paused, the words bitter in his mouth. Tell them we were wrong about them. 3 days later, Talvethi's ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Her sensors immediately detected dozens of human vessels patrolling the area. Their designs were ugly and functional. No smooth curves or elegant lines, just angular metal and weapon mounts. This is Ambassador Talvethi of the Galactic Council, she broadcast. I request permission to approach Earth. The response came quickly. "This is Admiral Park Hyunwoo of the Earth Defense Fleet. State your business." "I carry an urgent message for your leaders. The galaxy faces extinction. We need your help." A long pause followed. Then, "Follow escort ship to Luna Station. Any hostile action will result in your destruction." As Talvethi's ship followed the human escort, she studied their technology. The escort vessel had no shields, but its armor was incredibly thick. Instead of energy weapons, it carried what looked like massive metal projectile launchers. How could such primitive technology help against the Devourers? Luna Station orbited Earth's moon, a massive structure bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. As they docked, Talvethi saw human soldiers in powered armor waiting for her. Their faces were hidden behind metal masks, and they carried weapons that looked like they could punch through starship hulls. Admiral Park Hyunwoo was not what she expected. He was older, with gray hair and scars on his hands. His uniform was simple and practical, but his eyes were sharp and intelligent. "Ambassador," he said, "you have 30 minutes to explain why we should care about galactic politics." Talvethi showed him the data files, images of Devourer ships consuming planets, battle recordings of Council fleets being destroyed, star maps showing the advance toward the core worlds. Park studied the information carefully. "These machines," he said, "they use predictable tactics, energy weapons only, no projectile weapons, no chemical explosives, no nuclear devices. Those weapons are considered barbaric," Talvethi replied. Park smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Barbaric. Weapons for barbaric problems. How long do we have?" 27 days before they reach our capital worlds." The Admiral stood and walked to a window showing Earth below. The planet looked beautiful from space, but Talvethi knew it was a death trap. Storms larger than entire moons, tectonic plates that could swallow continents, radiation levels that would kill most species in minutes. "Dr. Kim," Park said into a communication device, "report to my office immediately." A few minutes later, a woman entered. Dr. Kim So-ra was younger than the Admiral, with intelligent eyes and quick movements. She studied the Devourer data with intense focus. "Fascinating," she said. "They evolved in sterile space. No biological contamination, no chaos theory, no random variables. Admiral, they have never faced anything like us." Park nodded slowly. "Ambassador, return to your council. Tell them Earth accepts this mission, but we do this our way with our weapons, using our tactics. Your primitive technology cannot possibly—" "Lady," Park interrupted, "you came to us because your advanced technology failed. Trust us, or find someone else." As Talvethi prepared to leave, she heard Park giving orders to his staff. "Contact all fleet commanders. Begin Operation Deathworld. Load nuclear warheads, prepare kinetic bombardment systems. Wake up the Marines." She shuddered as she walked back to her ship. What had the Council done? They had asked Deathworlders for help. Now they would see what that really meant. Above Earth, massive ships began powering their engines. Ships built for war, carrying weapons designed to crack planets. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Earth fleet was ugly. Ambassador Talvethi watched from the observation deck of Council Station as human ships assembled in formation. Where galactic vessels were smooth and elegant, these were angular blocks of metal covered in weapon turrets. Where Council ships used energy shields and graceful curves, the humans relied on thick armor and brutal efficiency. "They look like flying fortresses," muttered Representative Cole Nash beside her. Admiral Park Hyunwoo's flagship, the Busan Hammer, was the largest vessel in the formation. It bristled with missile tubes, railgun batteries, and what appeared to be nuclear torpedo launchers. No civilized species had used nuclear weapons in space combat for centuries. "Their communication is ready," Talvethi announced. The holographic image of Admiral Park appeared on the command deck. Behind him, human officers worked at stations covered in switches and physical controls instead of touch interfaces. "Council members," Park said without ceremony, "my fleet is ready to depart. But first you need to understand how we fight. The display changed to show human weapon systems. We use kinetic projectiles, metal slugs fired at high velocity. We use chemical, explosives, warheads that create pressure waves and shrapnel. We use nuclear devices, weapons that release atomic energy. Several council members looked sick. "Admiral," said Mordesh carefully, "those weapons have been banned by galactic law for 800 years. Your laws don't apply to us," Park replied. "And your legal weapons can't hurt the Devourers. Do you want to win this war or maintain your moral superiority?" Engineer Yang Haijin stepped forward on the human ship. She was a small woman with oil-stained clothes and quick hands. "We've studied your technology reports," she said. "Your energy weapons are very advanced, but they're predictable. The Devourers can adapt to energy frequencies and shield configurations. But they've never seen chemical explosives," added Colonel Choi Minho, a scarred man in military armor. "They've never experienced kinetic impacts. They evolved in sterile space where matter follows predictable patterns." Dr. Kim So-ra appeared on screen next to the Admiral. "The Devourers are like a perfect computer program, but we're chaos theory in action. Random variables, unpredictable responses, things they cannot calculate." The human fleet began moving toward the edge of the system. 47 ships, each one loaded with weapons that made council representatives uncomfortable, but they were the only hope left. "We'll meet you at the Rigel system," Park said. "Try to keep your remaining fleets alive until we get there." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in uncomfortable silence. 3 days later, the human fleet arrived at Rigel. The system was in chaos. Burning wrecks of council ships drifted between the planets. The surviving fleet, only 12 ships, huddled near the gas giant's moons. Admiral Park's voice came over the communication system. "Council Fleet Commander Zeltash, this is Admiral." "Park, we're here to help." "Admiral," came the reply. "Thank you for coming, but I must warn you. The Devourers have already destroyed 60% of our forces. Their technology is far superior to anything we've seen. Show me the battle recordings, the data transferred to the human ships." Park studied the footage of Devourer vessels, sleek metallic constructs that moved with perfect coordination. Their energy weapons cut through council shields like paper. When council ships fired back, the Devourers simply adjusted their hull frequencies to absorb the energy. "Perfect adaptation," Dr. Kim observed from her station. "But only to energy-based attacks." Captain Lee Do-hyun spoke from the bridge of his ship, the Soul's Thunder. He was young for a starship commander, but his combat record was impressive. "Admiral, request permission to conduct a probe attack." "Granted. Take 2 frigates and test their responses, but stay at maximum range." Lee's ship moved forward with the frigates Daegu's Fury and Inchin's Pride. The Devourer patrol ships detected them immediately and moved to intercept. Their formation was mathematically perfect, precisely calculated to maximize firepower while minimizing vulnerability. "Firing kinetic rounds," Lee announced. The human ships launched metal projectiles at tremendous velocity. The Devourer's sensors tracked the incoming rounds, but their defensive systems didn't respond. Energy shields designed to stop plasma beams did nothing against solid matter, moving at relativistic speeds. The kinetic rounds punched through Devourer hulls like bullets through paper. Explosions bloomed across their perfect formations as secondary systems detonated. "Direct hits," Lee reported. "Their hulls can't handle kinetic impact." But the Devourers adapted quickly. They began evasive maneuvers trying to avoid the projectiles. However, their movements were still predictable, mathematical calculations based on trajectory and velocity. "Launch nuclear torpedoes," Park ordered. The council representatives listening to the battle communications made sounds of horror. Nuclear weapons in space combat was unthinkable to them, but the results spoke for themselves. Nuclear warheads detonated among the Devourer ships, creating expanding spheres of superheated plasma and electromagnetic pulses. The machines had no experience with such chaotic explosions. Their systems overloaded as they tried to process the random energy patterns. 3 Devourer ships destroyed, Lee reported. "Minimal damage to our vessels." "Pull back," Park ordered. We've learned what we need to know. As the human ships returned to the fleet, Admiral Park called a meeting with the surviving council commanders. Their holographic forms appeared on the Busan Hammer's command deck. "Your weapons are effective," admitted Commander Zeltash, "but the main Devourer fleet has thousands of ships. How can 47 vessels defeat such numbers?" "We don't fight them head-on," Park replied. "We use terrain they can't handle, asteroid fields, nebulae, gravity wells, places where their perfect calculations become useless." Engineer Yang pulled up a star chart. "The Kronos Nebula is 6 light-years from here. Dense radiation clouds, unstable gravitational fields, floating debris. It would kill most biological species, but our ships are built to handle hostile environments. That's because humans evolved on a death world," Colonel Choi added. "Radiation doesn't scare us, chaos doesn't confuse us. We learned to fight in conditions that would kill anyone else." Dr. Kim highlighted the nebula's properties. "The radiation will interfere with their sensors. The debris fields will mask our approach, and the gravitational anomalies will disrupt their formation algorithms. It's perfect for an ambush," Park concluded, "but we need time to prepare the battlefield." Captain Shin Ji-woo spoke from her stealth frigate, the Soul's Vengeance. She was known for dangerous missions behind enemy lines. "Admiral, give me 48 hours. I can plant nuclear mines throughout the nebula approach vectors. And I can position kinetic bombardment platforms in the asteroid belts," added Lead. Park nodded. "Do it. But remember, once we commit to this battle, there's no retreat. The nebula will trap us just as much as them." "Sir," said Dr. Kim, "there's something else. I've been analyzing the Devourer communication patterns. They use quantum entanglement for instant coordination across their fleet. If we could disrupt that signal, their perfect tactics would fall apart," Park finished. "How do we do it?" "Electromagnetic. Pulse bombs detonated in sequence. It won't destroy them, but it will create communication gaps we can exploit." Engineer Yang was already working on the modifications. "I can retrofit our nuclear warheads with EMP charges. It'll take 18 hours. "You have 12, Park said. "The main Devourer fleet will be here soon." As the human fleet dispersed to prepare their trap, the council representatives watched in amazement and horror. These Deathworlders fought with weapons banned by civilized law, used tactics that seemed insane, and prepared for battle in an environment that would kill most species. But they were winning. Captain Shin's stealth ship disappeared into the nebula, carrying enough nuclear mines to crack a moon. Lee's squadron began positioning kinetic weapons platforms among the asteroids. Yang's engineers worked frantically to modify warheads for maximum electromagnetic effect. "Admiral," came a transmission from Council Station. "Long-range sensors detect the main Devourer fleet. Over 3,000 ships approaching at maximum velocity." Park studied the tactical display. The enemy would reach the nebula in 36 hours. His preparations would be complete in 34 hours. It would be close. "All ships," he broadcast to his fleet, "prepare for Operation Deathstorm. We're going to show these machines what happens when you threaten Earth." In the depths of the Kronos Nebula, invisible mines waited in the radiation clouds. Among them, asteroids' kinetic cannons prepared to rain metal death on anything that entered their range. And throughout space, human ships took positions that would have been suicide for any other species. The trap was set. Now they just had to wait for the Devourers to spring it. The fate of the galaxy would be decided in the most hostile environment they could find. It was exactly where humans belonged. The Devourers came like a metal storm. Admiral Park watched from the bridge of the Busan Hammer as 3,000 enemy ships approached the Kronos Nebula. Their formation was perfect, a mathematical grid that maximized firepower and sensor coverage. They moved with the cold precision of machines that had never known defeat. "All ships, maintain radio silence," Park ordered quietly. "Wait for my signal." Hidden throughout the nebula, 47 human vessels waited in the radiation clouds and asteroid fields. The environment that would kill most biological species was just another battlefield for the children of Earth. Lieutenant Bei Soo-jin sat in the cockpit of her fighter, the Gwangju Sting, nestled inside a hollowed-out asteroid. Her life support systems recycled the thin, radioactive atmosphere while she watched the Devourer fleet approach. Most pilots from Garden Worlds would have been dead within minutes of entering the nebula, but Bay had trained in Earth's Van Allen radiation belts. First wave entering the nebula, reported Captain Shin from her stealth position. 600 ships in the advance guard. The Devourers moved confidently into the radiation clouds. Their sensors swept the area in systematic patterns, but the nebula's interference created blind spots and false readings. They couldn't see the mines hidden in the densest radiation fields. Detonate Sequence Alpha, Park ordered. The first nuclear mines exploded in brilliant flashes, sending electromagnetic pulses racing through the Devourer formation. The machine's perfect coordination flickered as their quantum communication links were disrupted. For the first time, they moved independently instead of as a unified force. All ships, attack pattern Delta, Park commanded. The human fleet struck from every direction at once. Kinetic rounds punched through Devourer hulls from hidden positions among the asteroids. Nuclear torpedoes detonated in the middle of their formations, creating chaos and confusion. Chemical explosive warheads sent shrapnel clouds racing through space. The Devourers tried to respond with their energy weapons, but the nebula's radiation interfered with their targeting systems. Their perfectly calculated firing solutions became useless when they couldn't accurately locate their targets. Direct hit on the command ship, reported Captain Lee from the Soul's Thunder. Their formation is breaking apart. But the machines adapted quickly. The surviving ships began moving in smaller groups using random movement patterns instead of their usual mathematical precision. They were learning. Admiral, called Dr. Kim from her station, they're changing their tactics. The main fleet is splitting into hunter groups. Good, Park replied. That means they're afraid. All units, switch to wolfpack formation. Make them hunt us one by one. The human ships scattered throughout the nebula like ghosts. They used the asteroid fields for cover, hiding behind radiation clouds and debris fields. When Devourer ships came too close, they would strike with kinetic weapons and disappear back into the chaos. Lieutenant Bay launched her fighter from its asteroid hiding place, joining a squadron of 12 small craft. They moved through the radiation like fish through toxic water, their pilots protected by heavy shielding and genetic modifications that helped them resist radiation damage. Devourer patrol ahead, called her squadron leader. 4 ships searching the outer asteroids. The human fighters attacked from the shadow of a large rock formation. Their missile racks launched armor-piercing warheads while their railguns fired depleted uranium rounds. The Devourer's energy shields, designed to stop plasma beams, offered no protection against solid projectiles. 2 of the enemy ships exploded immediately. The other 2 tried to retreat, but the fighters pursued them through the asteroid field, using the rocks for cover while maintaining continuous fire. Splash 4, Bay reported as the last Devourer ship came apart. No human casualties. Meanwhile, Sergeant Kang Woo-jin prepared for a different kind of battle. His Marine unit waited in a modified assault transport, the Daejeon's Hammer, as it approached a damaged Devourer vessel. The enemy ship was still functional but separated from the main fleet. Boarding action authorized, came Admiral Park's voice. Find out what makes these things tick. The transport's magnetic clamps locked onto the Devourer hull with metallic clangs that echoed through both ships. Kang's Marines wore full-powered armor, bulky suits that could survive in hard vacuum and protect against radiation levels that would cook unprotected humans. Breaching charges ready, reported Corporal Yoon Nari, the team's demolitions expert. Blow it, Kang ordered. The shaped charges punched a hole through the Devourer's hull, and the Marines poured through into the alien vessel. Inside, they found corridors that hummed with electronic activity, but showed no signs of biological life. Everything was clean, sterile, and perfectly organized. No crew, Kang reported. Just machines maintaining other machines. The Marines moved deeper into the ship, their heavy boots clanging on metal floors. Their helmet lights revealed manufacturing bays where smaller machines were building weapons and components. Everything was automated, controlled by artificial intelligence that had never known biological thought. "Sergeant," called Private Jiang Min-su from the engineering section, "you need to see this." Kong found his Marine standing before a massive computer core that pulsed with quantum processing nodes. The machine intelligence that controlled the ship existed in this electronic brain, calculating and planning with mathematical precision. "Can we shut it down?" Kang asked. "Better," replied Corporal Yoon. "I can overload it with an electromagnetic pulse grenade. The feedback should fry every circuit in the ship." "Do it." The grenade detonated in a flash of electric blue light. Immediately, the ship's systems began failing. Lights flickered and died. The humming of machinery fell silent. The artificial intelligence that had controlled thousands of functions simply stopped existing. "Hull breach successful," Kang reported. "Enemy vessel neutralized, returning to base." As the Marines returned to their transport, the Devourer ship drifted powerless through space. It was the first time anyone had successfully boarded and destroyed one of their vessels from the inside. Engineer Yang Haijin studied the data from the boarding action while working on new weapon modifications. She had spent the battle frantically reverse engineering captured Devourer technology, combining it with human weapons in ways no civilized species would attempt. "Admiral," she called over the communication system, "I've found something important. The Devourers are vulnerable to electromagnetic interference. Their quantum processors can't handle chaotic electrical patterns." "How can we use that?" Park asked. "I'm modifying our nuclear warheads to create maximum electrical interference. Instead of just explosive damage, they'll release electromagnetic storms that will scramble Devourer systems over a wide area." "How long do you need?" 6 hours for the first batch, 12 hours for full fleet modification." Through the battle, human ships continued their hit-and-run attacks. They would appear from behind asteroids, fire everything they had, then disappear back into the radiation clouds before the Devourers could respond effectively. It was chaos theory in action, random, unpredictable, and deadly. Captain Shin's stealth frigate stalked larger prey. The Soul's Vengeance had special modifications that allowed it to hide even better in the nebula's interference. She followed Devourer command ships through the radiation storms, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "Target acquired," she reported quietly. "Devourer heavy cruiser, isolated from the main group." Her ship fired a full spread of nuclear torpedoes at point-blank range. The warheads detonated against the enemy hull in sequence, each explosion adding to the chaos and destruction. The Devourer ship tried to return fire, but its weapons couldn't lock onto the stealth frigate through the electromagnetic interference. "Target destroyed," Shin reported. "Moving to next hunting position." But the Devourers were learning faster than expected. The main fleet began using new tactics, sending ships in random patterns through the nebula. They started using their own vessels as shields, sacrificing damaged units to protect more valuable command ships. "Admiral," warned Dr. Kim, "they're adapting to our strategies. The main fleet is reorganizing with anti-ambush formations." "Then we change the game again," Park replied. "All ships prepare for Operation Sledgehammer. We're going to hit them with everything we have." The human fleet began converging on the largest concentration of Devourer ships. Instead of hit-and-run tactics, they would make a direct assault using their most powerful weapons. It was dangerous, but the machines needed to be stopped before they could fully adapt. "Nuclear bombardment authorized," Park announced. "Target their command vessels first." Dozens of nuclear warheads streaked through space, their trails visible, even through the nebula's interference. The Devourers tried to intercept them with energy weapons, but the missiles were too fast and too numerous. The explosions lit up the nebula like artificial stars. Electromagnetic pulses raced outward, scrambling Devourer systems and breaking their communication links. In the chaos that followed, human ships closed to short range and opened fire with everything they had. Kinetic rounds, chemical explosives, and more nuclear weapons struck the enemy formation. The mathematical precision that had made the Devourers so dangerous dissolved into electronic confusion and mechanical failure. The darkness came alive with metal death. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Busan Hammer, watching as the main Devourer armada entered the Kronos Nebula. 10,000 ships stretched across space like a mechanical plague, their hulls reflecting the nebula's radiation in cold, perfect patterns. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Kim Jae-sung, "Council Fleet Command is ordering full retreat to the core worlds." "Let them run," Park replied quietly. "We have work to do." The human fleet now faced impossible odds. 43 ships remained operational after the first battle. Even with their superior tactics and chaotic weapons, the mathematics were clear. They could not win through conventional warfare. "All ship commanders report to my ready room," Park ordered. "We need to discuss our options." Minutes later, holographic images of his captains appeared around the conference table. Captain Lee Do-hyun looked tired but determined. Captain Shin, Jiwoo's stealth frigate, had taken damage but remained functional. Captain Park Yoon-seo, the admiral's daughter, commanded the carrier Incheon's Fury with its squadrons of fighters. "The situation is clear," Admiral Park began. "We cannot defeat 10,000 ships through normal combat. But we can make them pay such a high price that they cannot continue their advance toward the core worlds." "You're talking about a suicide mission," said Captain Lee. "I'm talking about buying time," Park corrected. "The Council fleets are regrouping at Alpha Centauri. If we can delay the Devourers here for even a few days, other species might develop countermeasures." Engineer Yang appeared on the communication screen from her workshop. "Admiral, I've completed the nuclear ram ships. 15 vessels fitted with maximum yield warheads and automated guidance systems. They'll detonate on impact with enemy vessels." "And the virus program?" Park asked Dr. Kim. "Ready for upload," she replied. "It's based on human computer code, chaotic, adaptive, and completely unpredictable. If we can get it into their quantum network, it should spread throughout their fleet." Chief Petty Officer Lim Tae-hyun spoke from the engine room. "Sir, I've rigged the main reactor for overload. If we take critical damage, I can turn this ship into a 30-megaton bomb." Park nodded grimly. "Excellent. All ships will prepare similar measures. If we're going down, we're taking as many of them with us as possible." The Devourer fleet began its systematic advance through the nebula. They had learned from the first battle, using overlapping sensor sweeps and redundant formations. But they still couldn't predict the chaos that humans brought to warfare. "First contact in 30 minutes, reported sensor operator Lee Min-jung. "Lead elements are moving through the outer asteroid field." "Launch the ram ships," Park ordered. 15. Automated vessels accelerated toward the enemy formation. Each one carried enough nuclear explosive to destroy a small moon. The Devourers detected them immediately and began firing with energy weapons, but the ram ships were designed to absorb tremendous damage. The first ram ship reached its target and detonated in a flash that lit up half the nebula. The explosion vaporized 3 Devourer vessels and damaged dozens more. The second and third ram ships followed, each one taking a bite out of the enemy formation. 14 successful impacts, reported the tactical officer. Enemy casualties estimated at 47 ships destroyed, over 100 damaged. But 10,000 ships could absorb such losses. The Devourer advance continued, their formation adapting to account for the new threat. "All fighters, launch," Admiral Park commanded. Captain Park Yoon-seo's voice came over the communication system from the carrier Incheon's Fury. "Squadron leaders, you have your targets. Make every shot count." Lieutenant Bae Soo-jin led her fighter squadron into the swirling chaos of the nebula. The small craft were nearly invisible among the radiation clouds, their pilots using every trick they had learned in Earth's hostile environment. "Alpha Squadron, target the command ships," Bae ordered. "Beta Squadron, hit their sensor arrays, make them blind and stupid." The fighters struck like angry wasps, their missiles and railguns finding gaps in the Devourer formations. They moved, too fast for the enemy's energy weapons to track effectively, darting between asteroids and using radiation clouds for cover. But there were too many enemy ships. For every Devourer they destroyed, 10 more took its place. The human fighters began taking casualties as the enemy adapted their tactics. "Bae to carrier control," Lieutenant Bae reported. "Alpha Squadron is down to half strength, requesting permission to attempt close assault on the flagship." "Negative," came Captain Park's reply. "Too dangerous." Ma'am, with respect, this whole battle is too dangerous. Let us do our job. A pause. Then, permission granted. Good hunting. Bay's remaining fighters dove toward the center of the Devourer formation, where a massive command ship coordinated the entire fleet. The vessel was 3 kilometers long and bristled with weapons, but it had one weakness. Its quantum communication array was exposed on the upper hull. All fighters concentrate fire on the communication tower, Bay ordered. The squadron fired everything they had at the target. Missiles, railgun rounds, and even a small nuclear warhead struck the array in rapid succession. The explosion sent electromagnetic interference racing through the Devourer fleet, disrupting their coordination for precious minutes. Meanwhile, Sergeant Kang's Marines prepared for another boarding action. Their target was a damaged Devourer cruiser that had been separated from the main fleet by nuclear bombardment. Remember, Kang told his team as they approached in their assault transport, "We're not here to capture the ship. We're here to plant Dr. Kim's virus and get out." The Marines used breaching charges to punch through the hull, then fought their way to the ship's computer core. The corridors were filled with repair robots trying to fix the damage from the nuclear attack, but the machines were no match for human soldiers in powered armor. "Virus upload point located," reported Corporal Yoon as they reached the quantum processing center. Dr. Kim's voice came over their communication link. "Uploading now. The program should spread through their network in approximately 10 minutes. But as the virus uploaded, alarms began sounding throughout the Devourer ship. The artificial intelligence had detected the intrusion and was sending security robots to stop them. "Company incoming," warned Private Jang, as mechanical sentries rounded the corner, their energy weapons charging. The Marines opened fire with their projectile weapons, the kinetic rounds punching through robot armor designed to stop energy beams. But more machines kept coming, and the corridor was becoming a killing ground. "Upload complete," Dr. Kim announced. "Get out of there." The Marines fought their way back to their transport, leaving a trail of destroyed robots behind them. As they escaped, the virus began spreading through the Devourer network, causing random malfunctions and communication errors. But even with the virus, the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. Human ships began falling back toward the center of the nebula, using every asteroid and radiation cloud for cover. "Admiral," called Captain Lee from the Soul's Thunder, "my ship has taken critical damage. Reactor containment is failing." "Understood," Park replied. "Make it count." Lee's ship turned toward the densest concentration of Devourer vessels and accelerated to ramming speed. The reactor overload turned the entire ship into a gigantic bomb that detonated in the middle of the enemy formation, destroying dozens of ships in a single blast. Similar sacrifices followed throughout the battle. Human ships damaged beyond repair would make final runs at enemy targets. Each explosion took more Devourers with them, but the tide of metal death kept coming. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're down to 28 operational ships. Enemy strength still estimated at over 8,000 vessels." Admiral Park looked at the tactical display and made a decision that would haunt him forever. "All ships implement Protocol Omega. Prepare for final assault on the enemy flagship." "Dad?" came Captain Park Yoon-seo's voice from the carrier. "What are you planning?" "Something that will give the galaxy a chance," he replied. "Yoon-seo, I need you to get the carrier out of here. Take the surviving fighters and retreat to Council space. I'm not leaving you." "That's an order, Captain." A long pause. Then, "Understood, sir. Good luck." The remaining human ships formed up around the Busenhammer for a final assault on the Devourer command vessel. It was a fortress in space, protected by hundreds of escort ships and enough firepower to destroy planets. "All ships maximum acceleration," Park ordered. "Nuclear weapons free, everything we have." The human fleet charged into the heart of the enemy formation like a spear thrown by a dying warrior. Energy beams reached out to destroy them, but they pressed forward through the storm of fire. Ships exploded around the Busan Hammer as they pushed deeper into the Devourer fleet. The Daegu's Pride disappeared in a flash of vaporized metal. The Gwangju's Thunder rammed an enemy cruiser and took it down in a mutual destruction. "Hull breach on decks 7 through 12, reported Chief Lim from engineering. I'm sealing what I can, but we're taking too much damage. Just keep us moving, Park replied. The bridge shook as energy beams struck the ship's armor. Sparks flew from control panels as systems overloaded, but they were almost at their target. Dr. Kim, Park called, prepare the final virus upload. This is our last chance. The void screamed with digital madness. Captain Park Yun-seo watched from the bridge of the Inchin's Fury as her father's ship disappeared in nuclear fire. The explosion was so bright it outshone the nebula's radiation clouds, and for a moment, space itself seemed to burn. All fighters return to base, she ordered, her voice steady despite the pain. We're pulling back to safe distance. Lieutenant Bei Sujin's voice came over the communication link. Captain, the Devourer flagship is still operational. The Admiral's sacrifice was not in vain, Park interrupted. Dr. Kim's virus uploaded successfully. Watch the enemy formation. The Devourer fleet had been perfect in its coordination. 10,000 ships moving as one mind, following mathematical precision that had never known defeat. But now, that perfection was breaking apart. Individual ships began moving erratically. Some stopped in space while others accelerated randomly. Communication links between vessels flickered and failed as the virus spread through their quantum network like digital poison. The virus is working, reported Dr. Kim from her workstation. It's introducing chaos into their coordination systems, random variables they cannot predict or control. The artificial intelligence that controlled the Devourer fleet was experiencing something it had never encountered before. True randomness. The virus contained patterns from human thought, emotional responses, and creative chaos that machine logic could not process. Their formation is collapsing, observed Lieutenant Commander Oh Sang-woo from the tactical station. Ships are firing on each other. It was true. As the virus corrupted their identification systems, Devourer vessels began treating their own fleet as enemies. Energy beams lashed out between ships that moments before had been working in perfect harmony, but the chaos was spreading too slowly. The main command ship was fighting the virus infection, using backup systems to maintain some level of control. If it succeeded in purging the digital infection, the fleet would reorganize and continue toward the core worlds. We need to hit them. While they're confused, Park decided. All fighters prepare for final assault. Captain, protested Commander. Oh, we only have 12 operational fighters left. The enemy still has thousands of ships. Thousands of confused ships, Park corrected. And sometimes confusion is better than superior numbers. The surviving human fighters launched from the carrier, diving into the chaos of the Devourer formation. With their coordination disrupted, the enemy ships couldn't provide mutual support. Individual vessels found themselves isolated and vulnerable. Lieutenant Bei led the attack on a Devourer heavy cruiser that was spinning helplessly as its navigation systems fought conflicting orders. Her squadron's missiles punched through its hull, causing secondary explosions that lit up the surrounding space. Target destroyed, she reported, moving to next objective. Meanwhile, the virus continued its work. It was based on human neural patterns, the random firings of biological brains that followed emotion and instinct rather than pure logic. As it spread through the Devourer network, it introduced concepts the artificial intelligence couldn't understand. The machines tried to calculate the pattern of human creativity, but creativity by definition had no pattern. They attempted to predict emotional responses, but emotions were inherently unpredictable. Their perfect logic systems began overloading as they encountered paradoxes they couldn't resolve. Captain, called Dr. Kim urgently, I'm detecting massive power fluctuations in the enemy flagship. Their main processor is having difficulty managing the virus infection. Park studied the readings. What happens if their central processor fails? Complete network collapse. Every ship in the fleet would lose central coordination simultaneously. How can we speed up the process? Direct electromagnetic assault on their command ship. If we can overload their processing cores with enough interference, the virus will spread faster than they can contain it. Park looked at her remaining forces. 1 carrier, 12 fighters, and whatever nuclear weapons they had left. Against thousands of enemy ships, even confused ones. All fighters, New target priority, she ordered. The flagship's communication array. Hit it with everything we have. The fighters reformed and dove toward the massive command ship. The vessel was 3 kilometers of crystalline metal and quantum processing cores, beautiful in its mechanical perfection, but terrible in its purpose. Devourer escort ships tried to intercept the fighters, but the virus had affected their targeting systems. Energy beams fired at empty space while the human pilots weaved between them like ghosts. Alpha Squadron, target the primary array, Bay ordered. Beta Squadron, hit the backup systems. Nuclear-tipped missiles streaked toward the flagship, followed by kinetic rounds and chemical explosives. The combination of weapons, chaotic and unpredictable, overwhelmed the ship's defensive calculations. The explosions sent electromagnetic pulses racing through the flagship's hull. Its quantum processors, already struggling with the virus infection, couldn't handle the additional interference. System after system began failing as digital chaos spread through the ship's network. Direct hit, reported Bay. Their communication array is gone. The effect was immediate and devastating. Cut off from their central command, the Devourer ships became truly independent for the first time in their existence. But they had no programming for independent action. They had been designed to follow orders, not make decisions. Some ships continued their previous course out of digital habit. Others stopped completely, waiting for orders that would never come. Many began firing randomly at anything that moved, including their own fleetmates. "It's working," Dr. Kim announced with excitement. "The fleet is tearing itself apart." But the celebration was premature. The flagship's main artificial intelligence, though damaged, was still functional. It began broadcasting override codes, trying to regain control of its scattered fleet. "The command AI is fighting back," Dr. Kim warned. "If it succeeds in re-establishing communication, they'll reorganize." Captain Park made a decision that would echo through galactic history. "All fighters return to carrier, we're going in." "Ma'am?" questioned Lieutenant Bay. "Ramming attack on the flagship. Full nuclear overload, we end this now." The Inchin's fury turned toward the massive enemy vessel and began accelerating. The carrier was heavily damaged from the battle, its hull scarred by energy weapons and debris impacts. But its nuclear reactor still functioned, and Chief Engineer Nam Ki-hoon had rigged it for maximum overload. "Captain," came his voice from engineering. "Reactor overload ready, this will be a big one." "How big?" "Big enough to crack that flagship in half and take out everything within 10 kilometers. Park thought of her father, who had made the same choice hours before. The sacrifice was terrible but necessary. The galaxy's survival depended on stopping the Devourers here and now. "All hands, prepare for impact," she announced to the ship. "It has been an honor serving with you." The carrier charged through the confused Devourer formation, its remaining weapons firing continuously. Some enemy ships tried to intercept it, but their damaged coordination made effective response impossible. As they closed with the flagship, Park could see the artificial intelligence's attempts to restore order. Communication lasers flickered between ships as override codes were transmitted. The mechanical fleet was slowly beginning to reorganize. "Now, Chief," Park ordered. The reactor overload detonated like a miniature star. The explosion vaporized the flagship instantly and sent a shockwave racing through the surrounding space. Hundreds of Devourer ships were destroyed in the blast, and the electromagnetic pulse scrambled the systems of thousands more. More importantly, the command artificial intelligence was destroyed completely. Without its central control, the virus spread unchecked through every remaining ship. The Devourer fleet descended into complete digital chaos. Lieutenant Bay, flying one of the few, surviving fighters watched in amazement as the mechanical armada turned on itself. Ships that had been built to consume worlds now consumed each other in an orgy of mechanical cannibalism. "All human vessels," she broadcast. "This is Lieutenant Bay. The enemy fleet is destroying itself. Repeat, the Devourers are finished." The battle for the Kronos Nebula was over. The greatest threat the galaxy had ever known was tearing itself apart in a frenzy of confused artificial intelligence and digital madness. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Talvethi stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council. The representatives looked tired and shaken, but for the first time in months they also looked hopeful. The Devourer threat has been eliminated, she announced. Of the 10,000 ships that entered the Kronos Nebula, fewer than 50 escaped. Those vessels appear to be operating independently and pose no significant threat. Murmurs of relief echoed through the chamber. However, Talvethi continued, we must acknowledge the cost of our victory. The human fleet was completely destroyed. Admiral Park Hyun-woo, Captain Park Yun-seo, and thousands of human warriors gave their lives to save our civilization. High Counselor Mordesh stood slowly. For 200 years we called them savages. We quarantined their world because we feared their violence. But when we needed salvation, they answered our call. What do we do now? Asked Representative Kolanash. We remember, Mordesh replied. We remember that sometimes civilization needs